Hi, everybody. I'm Donna Baker, and this is my Faces of Monrovia show. I'm thankful to KGEM for coming up with this great idea, and I'm so happy to be here to introduce you to people in our city that have some great stories to tell. You may not know who they are now, but you will after you get to meet them on the show. So today, I'm really excited to introduce my friend Gautam Godse.
Thank you.
So I probably didn't say it right, but so happy to have you here.
I'm so glad to be here. I'm very honored because I believe I was the first person on the Faces of Monrovia.
I think you were second.
Second person.
Yeah, you were second.
And I really have seen the growth of that project. And I'm so glad to be here as well. And actually, it's like deja vu because now I've become famous enough to be on local television because I used to be on national television.
Oh, you did?
So I have done a ad long time ago for Apple. Back in 2003 when they had a switcher campaign, and I was on national TV for the ad, and pictures of me were on the Apple website.
Oh,
and the
wow.
Apple store. So this is coming back home to that.
This is a little more intimate, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So the reason I had asked you to be one of my interview people was because I met you at a mutual friend's, I think it was a 4th of July party, right?
Party.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys lived across the street, and we had a great time that day. Everybody got, went swimming and played cornhole. And so I got to know you guys, you and your wife, Hoofrish, who I adore. But when I left there, I told my husband, I said, that guy is so smart. I don't think I've ever met anybody as smart as you. So
Well,
you're inspiring.
You're too kind.
So how did you get here to Monrovia? I mean, obviously you weren't born and raised in the United States. So tell us a little bit about your story.
Sure. So I've been living in Monrovia for the past 20 years. So we moved here in 2003. Our first house was on Sunset Place, and before that, I had arrived with my wife in May of 2000 from India to set up my own business. At that time, being an engineer, a software engineer, I had my own startup. It actually was my third startup since I graduated college in '92. I founded a couple of companies in India. They were successful, and this was before the internet. So I had companies that were in tech before the internet, before 1995. And in 1997, one of my companies became the first internet provider in India in '97. And then with the success of that, I started a third company, which was dealing with Linux software. Mm-hmm. And that's where I moved to the US in 2000. The funny story is that I was supposed to be here in the US for my master's in 1992 after my bachelor's, and the US consulate in Mumbai refused my student visa, saying they had quota restrictions. So at that time, they were allowing only a few people from each country to come and study for the master's, and so they rejected me. And then once you get rejected, you can't apply for 2 more years. So I said, well, I got to figure out something on my own. I said, I'll go on my own terms to the US. And that's how I did finally. When I came here, they welcomed me because I was a business investor and I was going to create jobs here as well with my third startup. So we moved to the US in 2000. Initially, we were on the East Coast for a few months. Mm-hmm. That's where my investors were. But then we were at a conference in San Jose for my software. And the company that was exhibiting with us next to us, the CEO took me out to lunch, and he liked my product so much that he made an offer to buy my company.
Whoa!
And they were based in LA, a company called Chiliware, and so we moved with. So I called my wife and said, "Hey, we're moving to LA." And 3 days later, we had moved.
I don't think
baggage.
you had to twist her arm, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely not. Because New Jersey, who wants to live in New Jersey?
Exactly.
Right? So
nothing wrong with New Jersey.
Nothing wrong with New Jersey, but it was getting cold there. So we skedaddled out of there and moved to LA. And we were here in LA for about a year. And then we got pregnant with our first kid. We said, okay, we need to buy a house. And because we were in an apartment there, we started looking for a house. We rented an apartment in Pasadena for a while because we liked Pasadena. But we kept looking for a house to buy. And it took a long time because at that time, this was 2003, 9/11 had just happened. The economy was kind of tough and there was a war going on. But we kept looking and broadening our search around Pasadena. And one day we just drove around to Monrovia, and we love the city at first sight.
I know, pretty lovable.
And at that time, Myrtle wasn't fully developed as it is today, but still we could see the whole the hometown feel.
Sure.
And then we bought our first townhouse in 2003 on Sunset, and then 5 years later we bought our house that we currently live in 2008 on Highland Place. And that's the longest time I've spent in one house in my life.
Oh, really?
At Sunset Place, yeah.
Wow.
So it's been 15 years we've been in that house. And I've never spent as long as any other house that I've lived in
Wow.
before. And there's a reason for that, because I feel that Monrovia really is one of a kind town in
I
California.
agree. Yeah.
And people like you make it so much more
Oh,
interesting.
thank you. Thank you so much. So now, how long have you and your wife been married? And tell me about your daughters, because they're pretty awesome too. So
Yeah,
how old are they? What are they doing now?
Yeah, my wife and I, we got married in November 99. I had known her for about 10 years. So we actually started dating when she was 17 and I was 20.
Wow.
This is back in India when dating wasn't a thing.
Yeah, because normally it's a
Yeah, it's an
arranged
arranged
marriage.
marriage. And she's also from a different culture. She, by religion, she's a Zoroastrian, which is one of the oldest religions in the world. Freddie Mercury was a Zoroastrian as well.
I remember.
And so it took a while for our families to kind of understand that, yes, we were serious about each other. And it took a while for us to get serious about each other as well. So eventually we got married. We met in 89 and we got married in 99. And then we had our first daughter in 2002. And that's Tanya. She's a junior at the University of California at Santa Cruz. She graduated from Monrovia High School. Very proud Monrovia school girl. She went through Mayflower, Clifton, and Monrovia High. So
All through Monrovia Public Schools.
All through Monrovia Public Schools. And it helped that, we knew the community. The Mayflower principal was one of our neighbors, Mr. McGinnis.
Right.
So it was very familiar. We could talk to them about, our concerns. And I just felt that community really pulling us together. My second daughter, Simone, she's a 10th grader at Monrovia High. Again, for having followed her sister through Mayflower, Clifton, and Monrovia High. And she's now, she just finished school today, so they're off to go see a movie.
Oh, right. The last day is today,
school,
right?
Today, yeah. So they're watching a movie at a great theater on Myrtle. So overall, I feel that, the girls having spent all of their life in Monrovia have become true Monrovians. And that was our goal, because me being in tech, we can change jobs. We change jobs pretty often. And most of my friends and colleagues, they would move towns and move states to get to follow another job.
And get higher up on the ladder, right? Yeah.
And while I had the opportunity to do so, there were companies in the Bay Area that constantly wanted to hire me and make me move there. But I felt like having roots for a long time and spending time, having
especially with kids.
Having that unbroken, from kindergarten to high school experience is irreplaceable. So we just made sure that I could work wherever I wanted to, and then from Monrovia.
So they're born and raised Monrovians. I love that. I love that. You don't find that very often, right?
Yes.
So how did you get into tech? I mean, is it something that you were fascinated by as a young child, or did you just fall into it? How did that happen?
That's a great story. So when I was in 11th grade back in India, I actually went to a Jesuit high school. So in India, the English schools are all run by priests, Jesuits.
Really, I didn't know that.
So it's a very cosmopolitan school. So I used to learn the Lord's Prayer in the morning, catechism class in the afternoon, and then all my friends would be Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist, Christian in the class.
Variety, yeah.
But they were the best schools in terms of the quality of education. So one day in 11th grade, we got taken to the lab by a teacher saying, "Hey, we want to show you something new." And what the new thing was, 2 computers donated by the Queen of England as part of the Computer Literacy and Awareness Among Students program class, and 2 of them were luckily gifted to our school. So these were called BBC Micros, small computers.
Yeah.
And we were taken in a line to go see the computer, and I saw it. I instantly fell in love with that. Like, that machine is going to change the world. And I was the only one in the room thinking like that. And the funny part is to demonstrate the computer, our teacher said, okay, everybody type their name in and we'll show you how it sorts. So one person was typing it with like pecking. Second guy came in. Luckily, my dad had put me through typing school in 10th grade.
Smart.
So when I sat down, I quickly typed my name, and the teacher saw that. So like, okay, you're typing everybody else's name. So,
I don't want to wait.
I don't want to wait. So then I was given the control and charge of the computer, and that became an instant bond between the computer and I. So that influenced my life so much that I learned how to program during the summer of 11th grade. And then I was teaching my teachers how to program in 12th grade because they didn't know either, right? So here I was in the same classroom, but now they were sitting there and I was teaching them basic. So that was a very surreal experience. So that set me on the path for becoming a computer engineer. I was very tech-minded as well. Both my parents are doctors; they're medical doctors.
Oh, very cool.
So they both wanted me to be a doctor, of course. In India, that's huge. But so I had to literally fight them, saying, no, I want to do computers because I think that's the future. And they were like, there's no computers anywhere. We don't see any computers. What do you mean is the future? So they were very skeptical, but I stuck to my guns, and they fortunately allowed me to go study computer engineering which I graduated from. So
Excellent.
that's how I got into this whole tech.
Yeah, I used to work for a software engineering software company. So I worked with a lot of software engineers, and they were from all over the world, right? And so this was my first exposure to like the United Nations in a place of employment, right? And I learned so much from so many people from everywhere.
So anybody sitting in a hut in, say, Africa has access to internet and computer. They have the same intelligence and brains as anybody else. Now they can share that with the rest of the world.
Yes, and sometimes they're held back because they don't have access. So
Correct.
now
Correct. Access is important.
it's very important. So, okay, so I'm going to switch gears a little bit. So I know that you have a really cool hobby. So tell us about that.
Yeah, this was recent. As a kid, I was always into stuff that made my parents wonder, this guy's going to kill himself one day. So I used to fly
You're still
model
here.
planes. I'm still here, 55 years later. So I used to fly little model planes. And then when I was older, when I was like in my 20s, I started building hang gliders of my own using aluminum pipes and tarps,
Wow.
basically, and then flying with them, jumping off a hill and flying with them.
This is while you were still in
This was
India.
while I was in India. I was in my 20s. And then I always wanted to learn powered flying. But it was, of course, not available in India. It was too expensive and there were regulations around it. So when I moved to the US, I said, okay, here's my chance to do that. This was back in 2000. But then we had kids and my wife's like, okay, you're not flying and doing risky things now.
Or getting on a
Or getting
motorcycle.
So we decided to wait, and then 20 years later, now that my kids are older, I said, now I can do that. So I signed up for a class at El Monte, which is right close by. I think that's another thing in Monrovia. We're so close to so many facilities.
Everything,
You can go
yeah.
flying, you can go skiing in Big Bear, and you can go to the
Surfing and,
surfing.
yeah.
So I love the place, and still feel as if you're out of LA.
Yes.
It's in the mountains. We have bears coming out.
Yeah.
We have peacocks on my roof. So it feels very surreal that this is not Los Angeles, but it's like
I
this
know.
idyllic suburb somewhere. So I started flying about a year and a half ago, and it's the best experience. The first time I flew over Monrovia, I made my instructor fly lower so we could take pictures of the school, my house, the tennis club, and I posted that and tagged the high school. So it's a very satisfying experience to fly, and I became really addicted to it now. So I'm hoping to get my personal pilot's license soon, and then maybe I can take you up in the
I
air
would
and
love to.
fly.
I would love
That'd
to.
be great. So you can see Monrovia, and we can buzz the KGM
That'd
studio.
be great.
Yeah.
My brother-in-law previously had a pilot's license. It's expired now, unfortunately. But he took me and my sister on a flight to Santa Barbara. We
how
flew to
nice.
Santa Barbara, had lunch at the airport, and came back. So I've
That's-
had
I think
pleasure of being on a small plane. They're kind of
I
fun.
think that's the mind-blowing thing that I realized. Once you have a license, you can fly anywhere in the U.S.
Yeah.
You can go for lunch to Santa Barbara or Vegas and come back, and
Yeah.
it's a 500-mile radius, and it opens up so many
It
possibilities.
really does, yeah. I mean, our friend had a small Cessna, a 6-seater Cessna, and he had it, what do you call it, moored or anchored at Santa Monica Airport.
Yeah, parked at, yeah.
Yeah, and then he had a sailboat down in the Sea of Cortez in Baja. And so we would go to his airplane in Santa Monica, and we would fly from Santa Monica. We had to check in Tijuana,
Right,
get through customs, and then we would fly down to Guaymas and get on his sailboat and go away for 10 days and then fly back to Santa Monica. It was kind
That's
of a
awesome.
fun
It's like, what's better than owning a plane or a boat?
knowing somebody who
Knowing
has one.
somebody's a plane and a boat.
I agree with that. So, I was going to ask you about your blog. So you have this blog called Papercut,
Paper Circuit.
papercircuit.com.
Papercut. Yeah, Papercut would be a different kind of blog.
Yeah, it would. So tell us about that blog.
Yeah, so I've been always wanting to share my knowledge and the technical things that I learned, because my friends always ask me, how did you do that? Or how do I do this? They come to my house and they see all of these controls that I have set up for the house, or even just my software. So I said, why don't I start writing about it and sharing that with the rest of the world, not just my friends. So I started this blog called Paper Circuit, and it's named Paper Circuit because those are the two biggest inventions humans have made, papers. Because without paper, you wouldn't have books, you wouldn't have knowledge,
Right.
and circuits, without which you wouldn't have computers. So
I
appropriately,
wondered why that was called that.
yeah, so appropriately, it became a nice combination. So on the blog, I share, what I learn, what I do with those things, how I optimize my life to make my life and my wife and my kids' life easier, and my mom's also. We have Alexa Echo in my mom's house in India, where I can drop in and just check on her because she's
Really?
83.
Well,
So
that's
she
cool.
doesn't have to do anything. She just stands in front of it and I connect and start talking. So things like that, I started writing about it. And then realized there are other people like me who have done things in non-tech fields that I can highlight. So I started a paper circuit video channel as well on YouTube, where I'm interviewing people that have done significant things. And these are just my friends or people I've known in the past, and why they should be shared. What they did should be shared as well. So that's the blog. Some of those articles have been featured in our local Monrovia Living magazine as well, and we got good response from Monrovians saying that they really appreciate it and like some of those tips and
Yeah.
tricks. So maybe
I
we'll
read it
continue
every
doing
time
that.
it comes out. You and I are friends on Facebook.
Yes.
After we met at the McIntosh's house, we became friends on Facebook, you and your wife. And so I follow you pretty regularly. I watch what you're doing. So I've seen your photos from the plane, and I've seen you every time a new iPhone comes out, you're on it, you get it, and you're talking about it. And it's like, he's such an inspiration. I want to get a new iPhone now,
Yeah.
So you're making a difference in people's lives without even knowing it.
I'm also an expensive friend to have because they see what I try, because I'm trying them from a point of trying out the product and seeing how it can help our life,
Yeah.
and then sharing that. But then other people then say, "Oh, now you made me buy it. I have to spend this money to buy it."
I know my iPhone is the XS Max.
Yes.
And I mean we're on going on 17
14.
or 14 or whatever it is now, and I think it's so hard for me to change to a new phone. I just feel like I'm gonna lose all my data. And the screen's cracked now, so I'll have to talk to you
Yes,
later
we should
about
talk
which
about
phone
that,
I
yeah.
should get. Your mom is here visiting from India.
Yes.
Is she enjoying her time here?
Yeah, except for the overcast clouds. She's
Oh, I
like,
know.
I thought California was supposed to be sunny, and we
Is
gave
it her first time here?
No, it's her third time here.
Third time.
So she's been here before, but before it, my dad passed away last year.
I'm sorry.
So yeah, it's he was 84, but he had lived a good life. And then I said, okay, why don't you come spend some time with us here? My younger brother, who's 5 years younger than I, he lives in England. So she lives alone in India. And I thought, like, spend some time with me, and then my brother.
We need to move her over here.
She might not, because she's got such an active social life in India. She's like, you guys are taking me away from all my parties and all my
well, that's good.
karaoke
Right.
and my Zumba dance. And I was like, yeah.
So you said she was an MD. Is she practicing still? Or?
No, she retired when she turned 60. She was working for the governments in the government hospital, as was my dad. And they both retired within a year of each other in 97, 98. And so for the last 30 years, she's been, retired.
And they've been enjoying each
They've been
other's
enjoying. They've been
companies
traveling. She's a big traveler. She's been to China, Japan, more countries than I have been.
Wow.
She's been to Thailand and done sky parasailing there at the age of 75 or so.
Wow.
And then
for her.
recently, before COVID, she was signed up to do a cruise in Antarctica, and then COVID ruined all the plans.
A lot of plans.
Yeah. So she now she just does a lot of fitness, and she does 5Ks and keeps herself fit
Wow,
with that.
that's
She's
impressive.
83, and she doesn't look that way, and I feel that most of that
I've
is
met
because.
your mom. I can attest to the fact she doesn't look her age.
Thank you. So yeah.
I know that you said you like the fact that Monrovia is centrally located. It's close to everything you could ever want to try and do. What is your favorite thing about Monrovia?
I would say two favorite things. One is the community, because I go down the street and I mostly recognize people that I know and I've interacted with, and these could be people from, say, the city, the school, just my neighbors, or even stores. So that's the community feeling I have. The safety and the community that I feel is great. The second best thing about Monrovia is Monrovia Tennis Club. I'm a big tennis freak, and I started that because I found Monrovia Tennis Club across the street where I used to live on Sunset, and I became a member as soon as my kids were a little older, so I could spend time. And that's a unique club because it's formed in 1936. It's part of the Monrovia Historical Society.
Right.
So it's formed in 1936, and it's been in existence since then as a tennis club. It has a big swimming pool, 2 tennis courts, and we play there every week. We have a membership of about 90 families now. And these
they
are
all play
Monrovia.
tennis?
Well, mostly. I think about 30 to 40% play tennis.
Yeah.
Most of them use the swimming pool for their kids to have a great time as well. But the restriction is we want all Monrovians. So the community is all local Monrovians. We might get a couple of people from Sierra Madre, which we tolerate, but only because they play good tennis, right? So there's a criteria there. But that community, the tennis community, and the people that I met there have made it really worth its worth its membership, because that's what I value.
Oh, that's great.
You can call on them for anything besides just seeing them at the club, and you have that camaraderie and that understanding. I have been on the board as well. I try to improve the club. So I was president of the club for about 3 years, and I'm still on the board as the tennis chair. And I encourage all of the Monrovia folks to come and check it out and try it out, because we're always looking for members who play tennis or want to enjoy.
Now,
the
don't you
pool.
have to be like nominated by somebody?
Yeah,
or-
so you should be referred or sponsored by
Referred,
two
sponsored,
members
yeah,
of the club, and it's easy. You can come and contact us on our website, monroviatennisclub.com, and ask to know the members, so we can come and play with you as a guest.
Great.
Or give you a tour of the club and see how that goes. So those are my two favorite things about Monrovia.
I was a previous member for a few years.
There you go.
But I just felt like because people wanted to bring their kids to the pool, and I didn't really play tennis, and my only reason for using it was to have access to the room for rentals, right?
Right.
For parties and things like that. And I thought, somebody else will be they'll find it more useful than
Useful.
I did. So I let my membership lapse because I thought I should open up that spot for somebody
That
else.
was very nice
Yeah.
of you. Thank you. Yeah.
So, and what's your favorite place to have dinner here?
Ooh, that's.
Now, I'm not talking about outside of
Right.
Monrovia,
Yeah,
so
no,
don't go there.
We are big fans of Monrovia cuisine, and we frequent a lot of places here. So our favorite go-to place for food, we order the food is Las Marias for
I
great
love Las
Mexican food,
Marias.
and then to go out we go to Basin.
That's a lovely
141,
place. Basin 141.
Basin 141.
Yeah.
That's our favorite place. And then of course, we try to vary it up by going to Mikomi Sushi, Senna.
There's so many choices, right? I
now.
know you love that.
Yeah, because in 2003 there were a few.
I know.
And now it's
Well,
like.
I've been here since 1987.
Right,
So we had like two places to pick from. Devon, which was like really expensive,
Right.
and the Monrovia, and that was about it, right? So
But the comfort place for the whole family is having brunch at the Beach Cafe.
yeah.
So that's our place of
That's
comfort.
a
So
nice
it's
spot.
on a weekend. My kids would always
But you
say,
can't be in a hurry at Peach Cafe.
You can't be in a hurry.
Yeah.
You have to pace it out and be patient and wait and
Yeah.
But great food. Yeah.
Now, one other thing that I thought was really interesting about you, which I don't think anybody would ever guess by just looking at you, is you're a mixologist. So tell us about that, how you got
Yeah.
into that.
Well,
So if you don't know, a mixologist is somebody who makes fabulous craft cocktails, right?
yes. And I think it is primarily because I frequented a few of these amazing cocktail bars, one of them being Midnight Cowboy in Austin. If you ever are in Austin, go to 6th Street. Don't go to all the touristy places. Go to a speakeasy called Midnight Cowboy.
Okay.
You won't find the entrance because it looks like an apartment door.
Yeah.
And you have to know which person's name to push to open the door. But they made really good craft cocktails, and I really was impressed. And I like my cocktails occasionally. And I thought, okay, instead of me going out, why don't I start doing that? And a couple of my friends that were into this also encouraged me to do that. So I started experimenting. I love old fashions. So I started with
too.
that, yeah. And then I graduated
What's
to
not to
more
love?
complex. Yeah, exactly. What's not to love? More complex one. We, getting a lot of liqueurs and trying them out and mixing Indian flavors. So I get some, spices, cardamom, things like that. Also, in India we have a lot of liqueurs that are more herbal. So like the sarsaparilla root, root beer. Similar to that, we have some nice fragrant herbs. So adding that, making those cocktails.
Ooh.
So
I'm going
just
to come
got into
over and
that.
have you make me a cocktail.
Anytime. In fact,
I do remember when we all went out to dinner, and afterwards we went to that little clubby place in Temple City, was it? Or-
Yes, yeah.
And we had that really beautiful cocktail with
Yeah.
all the layers and the colors, and I was like,
See, you remember that. That's
I
how.
totally remember that.
In fact, my cocktail obsession was so huge that before COVID, I'd made a business plan to start a speakeasy in Monrovia called Dive Bar.
Oh, would you do that?
Well, the COVID thing kind of upset all of the plans, but maybe, who knows, if you get the funding and I get my act together.
You better hurry,
we
because
can
I hear
start
the
that.
guy at the Derby is going to have one.
Oh, easy. Okay. So,
Yeah.
well, we can always differentiate ourselves. My idea was you can only get 3 cocktails an evening. Because I don't
Okay.
want drunk people.
Yeah,
and-
right, right.
And then you get a stamp for each cocktail. And once you're done, you can leave.
Bye.
And it's a nice before dinner or after dinner, just drinks, bring your
So
spouse or
you don't want it to be a destination then? You just want people to pass through?
pass through, and then no food. So, just
No
have
food,
a drink.
just
Yeah, before your dinner or after dinner, you want an aperitif or this thing. It's all the quality of the drinks.
Okay.
It's not about the quantity. You want to enjoy and savor that, and come and have a nice time for that.
I'm a huge fan of absinthe.
Yeah,
So,
that would be a good trick. I can make you something with that.
Okay,
Yeah.
that sounds good. Very good.
With the whole putting the spoon on with the sugar and setting fire to it.
That's the first time I ever had it.
Yeah.
Was in Vegas, and they had the whole, the ice water and
put
the
yeah.
sugar cube on the spoon and drip, 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 and I was like, what are they doing? It's so fascinating. So now when I drink it regularly, it's like,
Yeah,
that's boring.
There's no production there.
Come on, make it fabulous. So, what else do we need to know about you? What would you like to talk about?
Well, as I said, I'm always trying to help people in technology with my technology. So I encourage people to go to the blog, but also people can reach out to me if they have a problem, and I can provide a solution, a technical solution to their needs. So that's something that I'm always open to. And people have randomly stopped my car's license plate is Mac Messiah. So I have people pulling up to me saying, "Hey, I have a Mac problem." Literally, just seeing my license plate.
We have a Mac at our office, which I have no idea how to use a Mac at all. I'm a PC girl, but I'm Apple everything else, just not PC, right? So, but it's stuck, and the little bar that goes like this that moves, it's stuck, and I'm like, don't ask me how to do that because I have no idea.
Yeah, so those are the things I help people with, fixing them. Besides that, as I said, I love hiking in the mountains. Just behind up on Highland Place is a Monrovia Wilderness, which is another reason why I love Monrovia, because we reserve that area for our community to explore. I've taken my mom hiking there as well recently. She loved the place. And overall in the mountains, you just feel that there's nobody else. It's so close to civilization, but yet so far.
I have people, when people will post the bears on Facebook or something, and I'll share it, they go, "Where do you live?" It's like nobody understands that we're in a little city close to Los Angeles. It's not like we live in the middle of nowhere. But yeah, we have bears and
peacocks and coyotes
possums.
and every kind of wildlife.
Where else could you live and have all that?
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
It's a pretty awesome place, huh?
And then and the other thing I also wanted to mention was the farmers market, because I've been a big fan of the farmers market ever since I moved here. It just becomes a nice, comforting Friday evening activity. Right? We just don't think about where to go, what to wear. You just stroll around.
Yeah, casual.
And casual. Have some food from the various food trucks and the stalls that they have, and then you can get some bargains. Meet some people.
I bought a bunch of jewelry down there.
There
It's
you go,
really great stuff.
And when my kids were younger, they used to love the jump houses and the petting zoo, and it became. And there's Pete the Bubble Guy. I don't know if you remember that.
I know Pete the Bubble Guy.
We
I mean, I don't know him personally.
Yeah,
But.
we actually got into one of my daughter's birthdays at home.
Really?
To create all the adults started enjoying that more than the kids. So the kids were like, "Yeah, this is good." Then the adults like, "How do I make that long bubble?" So those are the kind of personalities that we see in Monrovia, and they come. Some are transitory, some stay around. But it's just been a fabulous experience.
Yeah, I mean, I moved here in 1987, like I said, and it was a pretty edgy place to live, right? People would say, "Why
That's
in the
what they
world
tell
do you
me.
want to live in Monrovia?" And it was like, because we could afford it, and now people can't afford it. So,
Yeah.
well, we're gonna shut it down a little bit. I mean, that half hour flew by. So again, you write a regular column in Monrovia Living magazine. Now, not everybody gets a copy of that, but I think it's available online.
Yes.
And then we're probably talking about you maybe having a show of your own here on KGEM. So that'd be fun to
That'll be fun. Yeah, I'd love to
have
do
you
that. Yeah.
talk about all this stuff that you know in tech. But I want to thank you so much for being here with me, and thanks for being one of my guinea pigs when I first started out.
Oh, absolutely.
And thanks for saying yes when I asked you to be on the show, because not everybody says yes, surprisingly. But it's so much fun to get to know you a little better, and I appreciate you making time in your day in the middle of the week to come and talk with me.
It was my pleasure and my honor. Thank you so
you.
much.
So again, the name of the website is thefacesofmonroviaca.com. I have interviewed about 100 people over the last year and a half. And the interview itself has gotten a little better since when I first interviewed him, because I realized it was a little repetitive and a little boring. Not that you're boring. So I have better questions now. If you'd like to be interviewed by me, please reach out to me. There's a nomination form on the website where you can nominate yourself or somebody you know. I'd love to interview people in every walk of life that has a story to tell. And there's so many people here in Monrovia who have great stories. This is just one of them. So thank you for joining us. Thank you again to KGEM for coming up with this great idea to have my website turned into a show. And I look forward to having many more of our guests come, and you can learn more about everybody who I've spoken with. It's just such a fun project for me. And the whole idea, again, is just feature people in Monrovia who have awesome stories to tell. And that was a great story. Thank you so much for joining us.